Siracusa loses it. Juan picks it out of the air. Now he gets leveled. Kakemo comes out of there with it.
Watch Hilt on the pick game here.
Leo dives, scores the game winner! The officials will be talking it over. No, they'll wave it off. They're waving it off. Defensive end. A minute left to go in the OT. Shot, score the game winner! D-Mini George Stamos.
Welcome back, college lacrosse fans. Thank you for joining us for another episode of College Lacrosse Game Day. It's week 3. We have a couple pro players joining us. Chris Aslanian for the Cannons, Marc O'Rourke for the Atlas. Obviously, we'll go through the last week's results against the Shot Clock, talk about this week's slate, our D3 rundown, and discuss our games of the week. For our Feed the Family picks, follow us on Twitter and Instagram. I'm fired up. Thank you.
Holden getting underneath. Maltz, great catch by Bernhardt. Score! Hello, highlight reel.
Play like a champion today. Notre Dame with its first title in men's lacrosse.
Friday the 16th. Let the big dogs eat. The Bulldogs send the Terrier puppies pissing on the porch. Bryant heads to a tough few games, but should be ranked by the end of this week. Bryant 12, BU 6.
Drexel 11, UMBC 10. The Dragons overcome a 3-goal deficit with under 10 minutes left in regulation to steal a bone from the Retrievers in the second overtime frame.
VMI hope they can win for their country. They lose by 10 to a red-hot High Point team, 19-9.
Saturday the 17th, the Golden Griffins of Canisius were glorious after a fourth quarter comeback helped them edge the Knights of Bellarmine 8-7.
Matthew Keegan was his name-o as Bingo defeats the Bonnies in overtime, 13-12.
Quinnipiac 13, Brown 7. The Bobcats' new netminder is like a tree in cage. His name is Mason Oak. He recorded 19 and 15 saves in his first 2 career starts. Quinnipiac 2-0.
Denver. The Big Green fall to Bucknell, 15-13. The 3 games under their belt seem to help the Bison chop them down.
To quote Colton Schwab from the Duke Chronicle, St. Joseph was a carpenter by trade, but it was Duke who dropped the hammer. Duke 19, St. Joe's 10.
Penn failed to find their inward light and dropped their season opener to Georgetown 12-9 at Franklin Field. The Hoyas dominated the X and in the ground ball department. Lafayette
22, Hampton 2. 20 different Leopards record a point in the home victory.
Hofstra holds off Siena for the second win in a row. That's 14-12. Jake Madsen had 5 goals.
Holy Cross 10, Sacred Heart 9 in a game that was all but sacred and holy. It was the Crusaders who came out on top against the Pioneers in Worcester, Mass.
Vermont tops Sacred Heart at Virtue Field 12-9. The Catamounts run away with the fourth quarter, scoring 5 to seal the comeback.
Towson 17, Navy 5. Nick DeMaio and Mikey Weishauer combined for 8 goals and 7 assists to sink the midshipmen in dominant fashion.
2 hat-tricks help Penn State take down Stony Brook 14-10 as the Seawolves slip away in a snowstorm like Home Alone at Laval Stadium.
Air Force may need to spend more time on the ground because Ohio State outground balled them by 12 and declare a 12-4 victory over the Falcons. Buckeyes will find out how good they are at lacrosse on Saturday in Jurassic Park.
The Army Black Knights, they take down Rutgers in a surprisingly one-sided showing. Will Coletti had Army's single-season face-off record in this one.
Colgate 11, UAlbany 10. In the final minutes, Rory Connor finds the back of the net to give the Raiders yet another solid out-of-conference victory.
Delaware are the Kings in Queens. They dominate St. John's 17-6 at De Silva Memorial Field.
Michigan 18, Hobart 8. After a tight 40 minutes, the Mason Blues score 5 and 7 in the final 2 frames against the Purple and Orange. Although there was no broadcast or photos, not sure if I believe it.
Mayor's Jack Darcy calls game in double overtime. At home against Jacksonville, the Red Foxes improved to 2-0. That game was 9-8.
Hopkins 13, Loyola 7. Nobody told Garrett Degnan the speed limit on Charles Street because I've developed an addiction to the liquid smoke from his left hand. Tight game until the end, 5,000 plus in attendance at Homewood.
The Virginia Cavaliers washed the Spiders out 14-10 before 4,000 fans at Robins Stadium in Richmond. Peyton Cormier finished with a team-high 3 goals to give him 167 in his career.
Lemoyne 17, Wagner 6. The D1 Dolphins explode out their blowhole to beat Wagner by 11 in their first game. Jack Grooms with 3 goals.
UNC dug their heels in and opened the throttle this week. 7 straight in the third quarter, leading to a 19-8 win over Fairfield at Georgetown Prep. I'll tell you what, that JV coach must be licking his chops with all of these collegiate contests coming to town.
After jumping out to a 7-1 lead in the first quarter, the Sharks of LIU controlled the faceoff X in the ground ball battle to defeat Merrimack 10-8. Two D2 schools only a few years ago, both now serious contenders to win their conference.
The lacrosse capital of the West, Denver doubles Utah 16-8 at Rice-Eccles Stadium. Josh Carlson had 4 goals for the Pios, and guess what, folks? Jimmy Lampert is back with a hat trick.
Lowell plays UMass Amherst tighter than anyone anticipated. 10-7 finish in favor of the Gorillas. We'll certainly be keeping an eye on the Riverhawks.
John, the weatherman, Piatelli, warmed up of the storm that was brewing in Ithaca. Michael Long, Willem Firth, and CJ Kirst all had 3 or more. The Big Red beat Lehigh 17-13.
Harvard 23, Providence 7. How you like them ground balls? Said the Crimson after destroying the Friars 43-26 on the ground. Graham Blake, Sam King, and Teddy Malone led the scoring for the smarter team.
A tight one in New Haven on Saturday as Yale opens the season with a 13-11 victory over Villanova. Matt Brandow had 6 points, and Carson Kuhl came late to the party. Guess what he brought with him? 2 slices of that New Haven cheese to seal the deal in the fourth quarter.
Maryland 13, Syracuse 12, and the cathedral of our sport, the Creator, blessed us with an instant classic. Fittingly dressed in all black, the Terrapins stole a monumental victory from the Orange. George Stamos, the unlikely hero, in overtime.
Sunday, the 18th. Bang, bang! High Point Lacrosse tweets after the Panthers thrash Queens on Sunday, 17-8. Braden Maia had 9 points.
Princeton 15, Monmouth 5. Freshman Colin Burns ties Princeton's first career game points record with some guy named Michael Sowers. Not sure, but this is one of 2 games the Tigers played over the past weekend.
Mount St. Mary's, NJIT. It was a fabrication. Never happened.
Notre Dame 21, Marquette 8. If you weren't too distracted by the 20-foot inflatable Golden Eagle in the corner of Marquette's bubble, you may have noticed what looks like yet another championship caliber team assembled by Coach Corrigan.
Tuesday the 20th. This Tuesday game looked like Holyoke versus the Perkins School of the Blind. Pretty messy game, but a win for Penn over Albany, 12-6 nonetheless.
BU 16, Brown 10. A veteran-led Terrier team rebounds quickly after their Bryant loss by defeating an underwhelming Rhode Island Ivy League program.
4 Gorillas pound their chests with hat tricks to help UMass roll 18-11 over Marist at Garber Field. That's Marist's first L in the column.
VMI 25, Hampton 6. VMI hope they can continue to put this type of performance together offensively. Mamadou with 2 goals for the Pirates.
Breaking news from Olean, New York. David Byrne scored 7 goals to lead RMU to a 16-11 victory over St. Bonaventure on Tuesday afternoon.
Hobart 13, Canisius 9. Tight game in the Poole Family Dome, but the Statesmen get their first win. Shea and Valent helping the Purple and Orange go 20 of 24 at the X.
The Princeton Tigers went for Manhattan's jugular on Tuesday night like any big cat would. They beat Jaspers 16-5. Freshman Colin Burns had 5 points.
It's Harvard who brings the Bulldogs' hot start to an end, defeating Bryant 14-13 in Cambridge, Mass. Our source tells us it was $10 to park and $15 for a ticket. Who do you think you are, Coach Jerry Byrne?
The Leopards of Lafayette defeat Drexel, riding high off of a double overtime win against UMBC. This game was neck and neck with a 9-8 finish.
Wednesday in the JMA Dome, the Orange had 12 different point scorers to take down Utah 18-7. This game was at noon on a Wednesday. I guess Power 5 programs don't play school.
We are waiting patiently of the results of Yale, Colgate, Sacred Heart, Fairfield, NJIT, Monmouth.
Another excellent week of college lacrosse. Some great games I think we'll remember as we look back in the 2024 season. First of which being Maryland and Syracuse. What a game.
I think it was an instant classic. I think this is a game, might be the game of the year, honestly. Maybe. Probably
in
not,
February.
Game of February.
It's ballsy to say.
But, I mean, the atmosphere, the circumstance, just the players on the field, the coaches on the sideline, so much to play for. I don't know. The ending, everything about it was just amazing. The broadcast, everything.
What did we say early on? We were going to have an instance where that review comes into play, and it was huge in that game. And you could tell, it's so funny because we're watching it from TV, right? And you can easily see that he lands in the goal mouth, but the whole crowd obviously is like, their home crowd, they're like he
nope.
didn't go. So it's
like nope.
You've never seen replay so alive in college lacrosse before. It's kind of like you feel like you're watching the NFL, and it's brought to our sport, which is such an interesting element.
That was also the perfect gray area. Like, you always think that the rules are figured out, and then something like that happens where, right, Thompson dodges low, gets the shot off, ball's in the net before he lands in the goal mouth, and he slides in the goal mouth. Right? It might have been a half a second or a second after the ball was in the back of the net that his arm was in the goal mouth. Right? That's like it's a gray area because, like, he didn't affect the goalie. The ball was in the net. The play was technically over, but his arm was in the goal mouth.
Did you say Thompson?
Yeah, Leo Thompson.
Is it Michael Leo?
Yeah.
It's Michael Leo.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Michael Leo.
Yeah, it was way
But
off there.
I was actually saying this too. I think it's very beneficial to the defense finally, because those rules for the crease and the push and the dive and everything were you couldn't defend the ball at some points, and now you finally have a barrier where it's like if they land in that thing, at least you have something where it's like, okay, if he lands in the goal mouth, like even if you get a push, it's not a goal or whatever. Like there's something for the defense that was not there prior.
Well, one thing I think is I don't think it's fair to say he landed in the goal mouth. I thought he landed outside and like slid in because he's sprinting.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't want to let that consume the pomp, the pageantry that was the Terrapins visiting Syracuse, the two stars of the day donning numbers that are legendary at their university. And it was number one who won the day, Ajax Zapatello, covering the 22 Joey Spallina.
We spoke about that matchup before the game, and it lived up to the hype, at least for number one. He is an excellent defender. Ajax Zapatello, great name, great footwork, physical defender. He held Spallina to 1 point, which has been unheard of in his career thus far.
1 point?
I think it was 1 point.
Yeah. I don't know. And it's like,
check it.
And yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Ajax Zapatello too. Like, your typical Maryland number one is the guy there, and you know it's always going to be him, right? Like, Rambo, Wisniewski, Bernhardt, Maker, right? Like, their junior years, they were dominant, and everybody kind of knew that they were going to be the number one, I think, going into it. Zapatello being named number one, right, might have raised some eyebrows. He's definitely deserving of it, but he's a little bit unproven in my eyes. And obviously he's a great player, had a great season last year and was a huge part of that Maryland team. But, wearing number one is such an honor and such a testament to, your skill and also your leadership. So I think, Zapatello proved that he was worthy of wearing that number one, if he hasn't already. I mean, I don't know him, obviously in the locker room, he's definitely deserving of it. But holding Spallina to 1 point is an accomplishment.
There was other plays too. I thought in ground balls he was masterful. I mean, he'd put the ball on the ground and pick it up a lot of times, and forcing Spallina to spot that he felt he could be successful in consistently. There was other players too. I thought that Maltz goal early on, it was a stack concept. Shout out Coach Brundage. Stack concept. He catches the ball coming up the hash. It's almost a no look snipe. It's just high level lacrosse, and you're used to seeing that level of play in May.
Yeah,
and it happened early, and probably the biggest game in the Carrier Dome or the Dome, JMA
that place was
Dome.
popping.
Yeah, in years.
Oh yeah,
yeah. I mean, and I don't know, last point on this is, what does it say about Spallina? He's in the running for the Tewaaraton. Everybody loves him. He averaged 9 points a game the last 3 games, right? And in the biggest moment of maybe his career, right, certainly this season, he gets held to 1 point when his team needed him. And other guys stepped up, and, Syracuse played well kind of without him. But what I noticed was it didn't even look like he wanted the ball a lot of the time, right? Like, they were playing 5-on-5 a lot of the time with Spallina kind of hanging out on that low wing, being okay, being face guarded by Zapatillo. I don't know. If you're going to win the Twarton, you got to want the ball. You got to have, the confidence to go up against a guy like Zapatillo and go to the net and score a goal.
It could have been a huge moment for him.
He'll play a lot of other good cover guys throughout the year. They'll have a lot of other big moments, and it just all depending on how Cuse finishes off the year. But we'll see. Another
big game was Hopkins played host to Loyola. It was a great game. It kind of obviously Hopkins pulled away at the end, but I think if Degnon had his choice to take out an intruder in his house, it wouldn't be a gun. Who would be his right hand?
Yeah,
Duke can rip the ball.
Rip the ball.
That was a physical game.
Physical.
Very physical.
Classic Homewood, packed, great attendance. Would have loved to be there.
Loyola brought their crowd there. They travel well, especially in the Maryland, Baltimore area. Loyola fans, Loyola faithful. Great crowd. Physical matchup. There was a lot of heart in that game. Definitely a fierce rivalry.
It's right up the road, right up Charles Street.
Yep. Yep.
This game reminds me a lot of the BU-BC hockey rivalry. Like, two perennial powerhouses. Granted, they're not, both top 5 right now, but, whenever they play each other, both schools travel well, right? They fill the stands, so much on the line, so much history. That was a really good game. I think it was kind of a rock fight. It was more of a defensive battle, and that's kind of what you can expect to get in a game like that, a rivalry game like that, where, you hold your sticks a little bit tighter. The offense isn't as playing free as they normally do, and the defense is kind of just laying on the hands, and goalies are making stops. But really good game, really tough game, physical game. It's a good one to watch.
Yeah, expect more out of the Maryland teams throughout the year. A couple other good games this weekend. Yale-Villanova, 2-goal game at Yale's new facility. That was a fun one. Do you guys check into that one? I didn't see too much.
I didn't watch. I mean, I watched the second half of it, and my favorite part about that was Yale's facility. I mean, you can
great lacrosse venue.
Yeah,
you're looking at this huge brownstone building with a huge jumbo, screen board in the left corner.
Yeah,
it just looks pristine. It's a great place to watch a game, and I think Yale proved a lot. They were one of the few Ivy League teams to come out in their first game in the year and look pretty competent. A couple other Ivy League schools lost, being their first week, and Yale really came out and didn't look like they hadn't played a game yet. So I think Yale's going to be good. Brandau's a really good player. They got a lot of talent there. I think they're going to be good this year, and Villanova's a good team as well. But that was a fun game to watch.
Yeah, tight one too between Cornell and Lehigh for a while there. Cornell kind of pulls away towards the end. They have a lot of great players who are back. Michael Long, CJ Kirst, a lot of studs. Surprising scores. Towson dominates the midshipmen.
Dominates.
Yeah, 17-5, I believe.
Yep. I didn't watch too much, but yeah, Navy's offense. I mean, the defense didn't play great either, but can't win with 5 goals.
You can't win with 5 goals, but I mean, like you said, you expect Navy's defense to be pristine.
Right.
They got their guy.
Yeah.
We spoke about him.
Right.
Captain
of captains.
They got a good defense. They always have. And to let up 16, maybe they didn't have the ball much. I honestly didn't get to see the entirety of the game, but it's a lot of goals to let up, and that's not a lot of goals to score. You're not going to win many games doing with that recipe.
And the other academy just looks unstoppable right now. I mean, I buy BTN Plus, and I want to sell it after halftime because Army is just beating the bag out of Rutgers. They look phenomenal. They look really
Scary.
good. Really good.
They look scary.
Yeah.
Army's a top 5 team, and I'll be saying that until the end of the year. I think they're a championship weekend team.
That'd be so cool.
I mean, Rutgers is a good team too. Like,
They're a Big Ten team.
Right.
They were in
Yeah,
the Final
but
Four
lost.
last year, two years ago.
Yep. Within the past few years.
Within
Yeah.
the past few years.
In the Final Four.
and they still have a lot of the same guys, and brought in a great transfer class. I don't know. Army is unstoppable. They could go undefeated. That might be their last, out of conference game too. I'm not sure. but
Patriot League front runner. Let's just say that as of now. Patriot League front runner.
Yeah.
Mock.
They're deadly. They're a great team. I think moving on from this week, I have a lot to get into coming up. Obviously, Army Syracuse on Wednesday, so that's after the weekend. But given our algorithm, it falls in our game of the week category, so we're going to spend some time talking about that. Both teams do play this weekend before they match up next week. But our first interview for today is Boston Cannons midfielder Chris Aslanian. Chris is a lacrosse legend at Hobart, first all-time Division I era in points, second all-time in assists, third in goals. In the PLL, plays midfield for the Boston Cannons. He just came off a victory at the PLL Sixes Championship Series. Stunner in overtime against the Water Dogs. Awesome showcase of lacrosse. Dear friend and an all-time teammate, Chris Aslanian.
Well, hit ball action from the Cats. Atlas don't fall for it. Aslanian fires and picks a corner. That's good for 2 from number 3. That power play's up to what now, 150%?
Chris, thanks for joining the show.
Appreciate you having me on, Dan. Excited.
Of course. Yeah, we're fired up to get the chance to talk to you. You must be pretty fired up right now, coming off a PLL Championship Series victory at the St. James in DC. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, no doubt. It was an awesome experience. Super unique format, and obviously my first time playing sixes, but really good to get back with my teammates and have a week together down in DC. It was a lot of lacrosse, but a ton of fun and great to come out on top.
Hell yeah. So just want to talk a little bit more about your experience playing professionally. For those who don't know, Chris is an all-time great at Hobart College as an attackman, 4 years there. And then after Hobart, you're drafted by the Outlaws. You get signed by the Whipsnakes after COVID brought the MLL to its knees. And then you're signed by the Cannons, all while coaching at Princeton. So it'd be great for us to kind of understand what your lacrosse life and experience has been over the last few years.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, for me, lacrosse has always been a huge part of my life, and it was a main focus, especially in college. Obviously, as you mentioned, got to play at Hobart for 4 years, which was just such an amazing experience. I feel like I was really able to grow and develop, and came into professional lacrosse in an interesting time. Obviously, the PLL had just started, and a lot of those guys from the Outlaws team had gone over, guys like Matt Cavanaugh, Eric Law, I think Wes Bird. I had a little bit of help from my offensive coordinator, Pete Poyon, who was kind of putting a good word behind the scenes, and was able to come out of college right away and play for the Outlaws, alongside John Grant Jr. and Ryan Lee. And that was a really cool experience for me. And, out of school, I had a job for about 3 months, and, an opportunity at Princeton came up, and, it was something I really wanted to pursue. So I ended up, coaching at Princeton for 4 years, while also playing, which was just an incredible experience to be able to coach those guys. And it really helped me, grow and develop as a professional player.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I want to pull that a little bit more. So it's a pretty brave thing to do, 3 months outside of school, kind of making a jump to stick to your passion and coach lacrosse, but you're making another jump now. It sounds like you're going away from coaching, back to playing, and then into the corporate world. So it'd be great for us to kind of understand your process transitioning. Obviously not an easy decision, but it'd be cool to hear a little bit more about it.
Yeah, no doubt. I think for me, right out of school, I wanted to pursue professional lacrosse, and that was, that was really important to me. Like I said, being at Princeton, having the time to train and really be like a full-time professional lacrosse player was super helpful, and helped me kind of transition into the PLL. I was able to get drafted by the Whipsnakes after playing for 2 seasons for the Outlaws, and it was a little bit of a tougher situation there. I was kind of in and out of the lineup and still trying to find my way. I ended up getting dropped by them and picked up by the Cannons, which was just such a great opportunity for me, and was able to train every single day at Princeton and be around the game, be around a bunch of great coaches. I think for me, just kind of where I'm at in my life right now, a really good opportunity came up, and, I'm still going to be able to play and dedicate a lot of time to playing lacrosse, but, also kind of pursue a different avenue focus outside of the game. So it's just a really good opportunity for me. Definitely a tough decision to leave. I love my time at Princeton. It's such a special place and program, and they really have a great culture, and wish them the best of luck this season.
Yeah, as someone who played with you, I'm certain they'll miss you as well as a coach and a leader in that program. I want to talk a little bit about your experience in the pros. You've become a staple in the Cannons offense. Obviously, this show, we are huge Boston Cannons fans, and you've really become a staple in that offense, and that wasn't always the case. You were fighting for a roster spot, I think your first year, full year in the PLL, and that's definitely a different experience than in college where you're the guy for multiple seasons, a captain as a junior. So going from being the man to competing for a spot every week, what's the difference there? And can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting because, you're kind of trying to find a role, and, luckily, I was able to get into the Cannons at a time where, we weren't that great. We were the worst team in the PLL, and, I still kind of had that hunger along with a lot of my other teammates to do well and have success. And, I think professional lacrosse is so interesting because you only have so much time together, right? Like you have to do a lot of stuff behind the scenes to build relationships, to build chemistry. And, one thing that happened this past summer, I thought was just all the guys just gelled together, and I got to play alongside some, just incredible players, guys like Marcus Holman, who's probably one of the best leaders I've been around, guys like Matt Kavanaugh, Asher Nolting, you guys had on the show the other week, Matt Campbell, who's going to be a star in the league. And we just worked really well together, just a bunch of guys that love playing the game the right way. And, we had, Coach Holman who came in and set a great expectation for us on how we want to operate and what we want to do. We had Mikey Thompson, who's the head coach at Christopher Newport, who's done an amazing job, and Coach Jim Mitchell, who's the offense coordinator at Princeton, who I got to work with for 4 years come in. And it was kind of just a culmination of all that. And, just kind of getting the opportunity to play a full 10 games and really settle into an offense. So it was an unbelievable experience.
That's awesome. Want to transition to the college game for a minute. Obviously, actually Hobart right now, they're I think a couple goal lead over Canisius midweek game. So we'll put that aside for a minute. But Princeton, where you coach for a few years, they have a big one this weekend against Maryland, who just edged Syracuse in an overtime thriller. Give us some insight on the Princeton team this year and what to expect from that group.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see how they do. I was actually watching their game versus Manhattan not too long ago. Interesting dynamic with that group. You got some guys like, Pace Billings, Paul Wethington, Marquez White, Mike Gianfrancaro, who are some upperclassmen guys who've tagged a lot of minutes and have won some pretty big games. You got Coulter Mackesy, who's one of the top attackmen and players in the country. I think he's such a skilled player, and I know we'll have a great year this year. And you got some younger freshmen who are really good. Colin Burns is a really consistent ex-attackman who can do it all. Nate Kabiri is one of the more talented freshmen I've seen in my time coaching lacrosse in college. So it's going to be really interesting. I think they have all the tools to do it, and they got a great staff. So I'm really excited to see that game.
That's awesome. Yeah, Chris, we'll just wrap this up. We really appreciate you being here, contributing to the show. You're an all-time leader, all-time teammate, and role model for me personally. And really thank you for being here. Good luck with everything as you move forward, and good luck this summer as we'll be rooting for the Cannons.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bam. All right, our week 3 slate of college lacrosse starting on Friday, the 23rd. Got some great games this week. We have Siena at UMass Lowell. That one's at 3 p.m. And then we have Towson at St. Joe's. That one is at 4 o'clock. Great game.
Big game here. Towson's coming off a 17-5 win against Navy. Really a statement win for the Tigers and Nick DeMaio, who had 9 points and was named the Division I Player of the Week. St. Joe's has been a team for us to watch this year, but is still winless. Granted, they've lost to some good teams in BU and number 2 Duke. And really going into this game, if I'm on St. Joe's, this game seemed a lot more welcoming a week ago. I think after seeing what Towson did to Navy, it's going to take a little more prep and a little more energy for St. Joe's to win this game. But I do think they get back on track this week with a win in Hawk Hill.
And something to throw on with a cocktail as we kickstart our weekend. Jacksonville goes to Duke. They play at 6 p.m. on Friday night.
Duke has looked like they are on a warpath to return to the Memorial Day weekend. They are coming off a 19-10 dominating win over St. Joe's. Production is coming from this attack line. The 2023 Tawarton winner, Brendan O'Neill, had a sock trick that is 6 goals against the Hawks. Zawada had 6 assists, and Dyson Williams had 3 goals and an assist. Sneaky Naso was 20 of 26 on faceoffs, and his total wins are at 838, which sits him at 11th in NCAA Division I history. Jacksonville is coming off a 9-8 loss to Marist, a team who might turn some heads this year, but this is not the same Jacksonville team we saw a year ago that upset Duke.
No, it's not. And moving into Saturday, we have a bunch of good games today. Starting off in the morning, Manhattan goes to an undefeated NJIT. They play at 11 o'clock. St. Bonnie's goes to VMI. They also play at 11. And then Mercer goes to West Point to get a lacrosse lesson from Army West Point.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Binghamton at Lafayette. That one's at noon.
Yeah. One thing I'll say about the first game you mentioned there, Manhattan and NJIT, obviously we breeze over it, but NJIT is 3-0 this year, and they beat some good teams, so keep an eye out for them.
Yep.
Looking at this game, Binghamton at Lafayette. Lafayette just came off a 1-goal win against Drexel tonight. Big win for them. And Binghamton is coming off a 1-goal win against St. Bonnie's. So this game is kind of a toss-up. It's going to be a quick turnaround for Lafayette against a good Binghamton team who has a lot of experience, as we mentioned before. I like Binghamton in this game.
Another Rhode Island game. Brown goes to Providence, 12 noon.
Yep, the next leg of the Rhode Island state battle. We watched Brown play BU tonight. Brown showed that they're a pretty physical team. They have the ability to go on runs when they need to. Providence has a few more games under their belt. They were close with a good Bryant team. I think this week in the film room, Brown's got to look some stuff over, but I think it will bode well for them in a positive way.
Another 12 o'clock game. High Point goes to Cleveland State, and then Colgate, having a hot start, goes to Villanova after a tough loss to Yale. That one's at noon.
Is Colgate back? That's the question we ask ourselves. Can Colgate continue the solid start to the 2024 season?
It's a great question.
Can they?
It's a great question.
Colgate is back in the top 20, according to Inside Lacrosse. They are number 20. They are 3-1 on the year with wins over Hobart, and just had a solid win over a great Albany Great Danes team.
It's a good win.
An excellent win. And although Villanova is 0-2, their first 2 games were against top 20 opponents. And they definitely showed some signs of life against the number 9 ranked Yale Bulldogs at Yale at that amazing facility.
And speaking of Albany, they go to Drexel. Games at noon.
Yeah, they travel to Drexel. I saw a Great Danes team that was really unselfish with the ball. They moved the ball well at Penn. They fell into a trap of not taking those shots when they had them, which worries me a bit. Drexel comes off of a big win at UMBC and double OT last weekend. So I think this should be a pretty good game. I'm hoping it rides out with some confidence for both of them.
Wagner goes to Fairfield. They play at 12 noon. Then a Mid-Atlantic matchup right around the Maryland area. Maybe both teams are in Maryland. I'm not 100% sure, but UMBC goes to Mount St. Mary's. They play at noon. Yep. Yeah, right.
Yeah, Mount St. Mary's is in a tough spot right now. They just lost to NJIT. And, UMBC is a tough school. Lost to a pretty solid Drexel team. This is a toss-up, and, I think Mount St. Mary's is having a little bit of an identity crisis from losing their head coach. They were a team atop the NEC just a couple years ago, and, they're looking for something to play for. This would be a big-time win if they can sneak it out against UMBC, but I'm going to go with UMBC in this one.
And after a tough loss for Navy, they play host to Penn State.
Yeah, this has the liking to be a very good matchup, and that is only if Navy does not play the way that they played against Towson.
Right.
Navy is 2-1 with wins over Mount and Hofstra, while Penn State is also 2-1 with wins over Villanova and Stony Brook. This is also the first ever matchup between Navy and Penn State.
Yeah, it could certainly be a game of the week if the result in the Navy Towson game wasn't as lopsided as it was. And after a tight game with Virginia, Richmond will play host to St. John's. That one's at noon. Then moving into our 1 p.m. games, Bucknell goes to Harvard.
Yeah, Bucknell came off a big win against Dartmouth. It was 15-13. We think if that game was played later on in the season, maybe Dartmouth sneaks by with a couple more goals. Harvard is a bit unassuming, but a pretty good team. Jerry Byrne, has a strong out-of-conference schedule for a reason. Bryant, who they just took down, Virginia and Michigan. Harvard is a tough place to play, and you come into Boston, you're going to hear some lip, especially for the Philly team, Bucknell. But I like Harvard in this game. It should be interesting to see what happens.
Some more 1 p.m. games. Holy Cross goes to Dartmouth. Hampton plays at Queens, and then LIU travels down to Lindenwood. And a great game. Rutgers at Loyola. This one's also at 1 o'clock. A lot at stake here for both programs.
Really big game here. Both teams are coming off losses. Rutgers got walloped by Army last week. Loyola lost a tight one to Hopkins. The interesting thing about these two teams is that both teams are near the top of their conferences, right? Loyola in the Patriot League and Rutgers in the Big Ten. But it's unlikely that either team will win their conferences. Both are a gauntlet. Both have, top 5 teams at the top of those. So that means this game is huge for at-large chances. It really is a must-win for each team. I'm still unsure about how good Loyola is. They really haven't shown much since their Week 0 win against Georgetown. They're 0-2 since then. Rutgers has a roster that can beat anybody. They just got to play for the full 60 minutes. I like Loyola at Loyola in this one.
Bay State battle. Merrimack goes to UMass. They play a 1.
Yeah, this is UMass's game to lose here. Merrimack is definitely a team that could show up and upset the Minutemen, and that is being said that UMass, was flirting with an upset themselves against rival UMass Lowell, who went to UMass and showed them what they were made of for sure. But that is also being said with the UMass team that almost beat the powerhouse that is the Army Black Knights. Mm-hmm. Merrimack is coming off a disappointing loss to LIU at LIU, which saw a comeback effort fall short, and they lost 10-8. They do have some guys who can score in Jack Rooney and Casey Mongillo, and they do have a goalie who can save the ball in Henry Vaught. But I'm taking UMass in this one.
I like it. A very even game here. Stony Brook goes to Air Force. They play at 2. I love this game.
Yeah, this is the first time Stony Brook is on the road this year. Palinetti, as always, been a big staple for the offense. Air Force is 0-3. They lose to Marquette, Denver, Ohio State, all solid teams. I think they're hungry for a win, and I think Stony Brook is the team to do it.
A similar game. Vermont goes to Utah. This one's at 2. I think both teams understand that once conference play begins, that's really when their season gets going and becomes very intense. This should be a good one.
Yeah, definitely will be a good one. I was really hoping to see each of these teams make a statement early in the season. They're both teams that are able to do so. Vermont is 1-2. They beat Manhattan last week, and Utah is 0-2. Neither team has really played an equal opponent. All of those losses for both teams have come against top 20 teams. I do think Utah is a better team. But with that said, Vermont knows what it's like to go on the road and win. They beat Manhattan. They have a win under their belt. They know what that feels like. Utah's still looking for that. I think both these teams can make conference runs, Vermont in the American East and Utah in the ASUN. This is going to be a big confidence boost for each team, whoever wins.
A great game on Long Island this weekend at 3 p.m. Marist goes to Hofstra.
My question originally going into this was, can Marist continue their undefeated start to their season and go 3-0? Obviously, not the case. They lose today against a good UMass team. But they have looked impressive thus far this year. I'll give them that. They have wins over Jacksonville and Bucknell. A Bucknell team who just upset Dartmouth. Let's not forget that this weekend. But Don't sleep on Hofstra either. Though they are 3-1, they might not lack, a good win at the moment, but they have shown they can put the rock in the net. All 3 of their wins being 14-plus goal games. But I am taking Marist in this game.
And then another great game this weekend, not one of our games of the week, but great contest after a tough loss to Georgetown. UPenn plays host to Delaware. This one's at 3:30 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, I think Delaware has been really good this year. They're 2-0 right now. They beat St. John and Lafayette. The next three are Penn, Michigan, and Syracuse, so those should be good tests for them. They need a win to put themselves in a good position with these next slates coming up. J.P. Ward, Hayden's dark horse for the year, and Mike Robinson, they're just electric around the goal, contributing for more than half of the team's points so far. Penn is a team that could struggle this year. According to Hayden's father class of 74, they hung with UVA in a scrimmage in early February, and they fell to a mediocre Georgetown team 12-9 in their opener. They play Albany today, and it's a must-win game.
One note on that: it's Penn. It's not UPenn. My dad sent me a text earlier in the week.
Good to know.
Correcting you from the previous week.
Good to know.
Really?
Is it
Penn.
Is it the University of Pennsylvania?
It is, but UPenn is an outdated term. It's Penn.
How outdated?
We're progressive on the show.
I mean,
it's incorrect, is what I'm saying. It's Penn.
I didn't know he was so progressive.
Well,
Get with the times.
it's Penn.
yeah, Doug Fry is a legend of lacrosse in so many ways at University of Pennsylvania in Sudbury, Massachusetts. I would never say anything bad about him on this podcast, but I might say UPenn here and there. I might say UPenn here and there. All right, moving on. Canisius goes to RMU. Two teams really looking to prove something. This one's at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. Marquette goes to Michigan. This one's one of our nightcaps, 7 p.m. in Ann Arbor.
This is a big-time game. This is a type of game that makes your Big Ten Plus subscription worth the money you pay. Two very evenly matched teams. I think we last saw Marquette play against Notre Dame this past weekend on Sunday. Marquette was up early for those who watched, and they looked like a formidable opponent against Notre Dame. I think they got up early. I think they surprised themselves a little bit, and obviously Notre Dame is Notre Dame. But Jake Stegman, number 14 for Marquette, he wears a C on his chest, is a beast and one of the best middies I've seen all year, right? I think he had 5 points against Notre Dame. He gets to the net. He's big. He's a righty. He's just a very impactful player, and I don't know if Michigan has a matchup for him. Looking at Michigan, they're a very solid team. Michael Boehm is proving that he's one of the best attackmen in the country. We'll see what the studs for each team can do. I'm sure that Marquette is going to be underdogs in this game, and I love them against the spread.
It's an excellent Midwest matchup. Now, our next game is Quinnipiac at Bryant, but before we provide our analysis, we're going to bring in a Bryant legend, scored 200-plus points with the Bulldogs, plays for the PLL Atlas now, a dear friend of mine from competing over the years from Hingham, Massachusetts, Marc O'Rourke.
Marc O'Rourke for his first goal today. O'Rourke in the championship game, and again, for the junior from Hingham, Massachusetts, they wondered if he'd be getting back this year. He battled through those COVID-related issues for so long, and man, he has come back and been the force that they know he is for the Bryant Bulldogs. Number 17 in his fourth game back.
Marc, thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thanks for joining the show. We're pumped to have you on. We just watched a thriller. Bryant, Harvard didn't end the way I think Bryant wanted. What did you see in that game?
Saw a slow start from the boys, but I think as we started to settle in, you saw a lot of good from us. Johnny Hackett is the truth. He is lights out.
It's not Levi Anderson.
No, it is Johnny Hackett. But no, they battled hard. Tegan Alexander, our goalie, was lights out. I don't know. There was a lot of good that came out of it, but obviously the result was not what they wanted.
Totally.
I'm sure I'll talk to some of the guys tomorrow and get their take on it as well.
Definitely, yeah. We'll ask you more about the game, but want to catch up with you first. Obviously, an unbelievable career at Bryant. You finished with over 200 points, an all-time great offensively there. Want to ask you a little bit what's been going on the last year or so. I know you played in sixes last winter with the Atlas. It must have been a really cool experience, but just tell us what you're up to working in the corporate world. What's going on?
So after graduation, moved out to Chicago. I've been working in Chicago for like about a year and a half at this point. I think.
And what are you doing for work?
I'm an underwriter at Arch Insurance.
Very cool. Very cool. Shout out Arch Insurance.
Yeah. So.
Awesome. Yeah, I guess we just want to kind of talk to you a little bit about, transitioning from an illustrious college career, because you really were a stud and the whole country knew it. But I think that as a lot of folks know in the college lacrosse world, that it's very tough to move on and play professionally after college, because there's only so many opportunities to compete at the next level. There's no real combine or anything like that. You're obviously a very competitive person, and I do think you could be successful professionally. So would love to just understand, I guess, the process of you trying to play in the PLL, what that process was like, and just give us some insight on maybe your take on trying to play professionally and I don't know, for folks who are thinking about it or are serious about playing at the next level, the process that it is and what you kind of wish it would be.
Yeah. So after I graduated, Bryant in 22, I was picked up by the Archers shortly after that. So then I went to training camp in Albany for the Archers, which was already, just looking down the roster, a pretty tough roster to crack. You had guys like Ryan Ambler, Tom Schreiber, Grant Amen.
Yep.
You just have these guys that you watch growing up, like you're on the field with. So it's like a week-long camp, but the first 4 days are with 30 guys, and then it gets cut down to 25. And then that's your 25 technically for the year. And then it gets cut down again to 19 guys that are playing. And then those 6 guys go on reserve, and then you have 6 guys are like out, 2 of them go on reserves, and the other 4 just like stay, but the reserves don't travel either. So then you have to get like rotated in every 3 games to have your respective team keep your rights.
Gotcha.
But it is like, to going back to like what you were asking, like it's a pretty intense thing just because it's so competitive with the guys that are veterans, and they're obviously so talented and well known without the sport. And then you have guys that are fresh out of school that are probably in better shape than most of the guys, except for, I would say, the guys that play the NLL, because they have a stick in their hand all year and they're constantly playing lacrosse.
Right.
So I mean, it's really difficult to crack a lineup. You see a lot of guys, I think, too, that were unbelievable in college that you would think would be playing in the league, no brainer, that play a couple games this summer or aren't even on a roster.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think, like, looking forward, it's just like the kids below us are so good and so talented that, like, they're so versatile. Like, their game is like so much further ahead than where any of us probably could have been at that point.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great insight. And you did have the chance to play in a few games professionally. Can you compare the skill level and just the speed of those games versus college?
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate enough last summer to play 5 games with the Atlas.
Wow.
And it is just like, it's a completely different game. It's much faster. The shot clock also plays a huge part into it as well. Mm-hmm. Like, you get, as soon as you win the face-off, you get 32 seconds to get a shot off, whether you win it forward or back, which was definitely an adjustment because I think that was the first year they did it last year. But everything, like, guys are just bigger, faster, stronger. Decision-making has to be that much quicker. Like, you can't really afford to make mistakes because, like, they're pretty costly. Like, right. Everyone in the league is pretty good.
Yeah.
But it is definitely a much faster game than college. But I think that goes without saying. But yeah, I think decision making is probably the biggest difference maker.
Yeah, and you had a tough transition, but I think something that made that transition easier is obviously getting the call from Coach Pressler. Can you just talk a little bit about your relationship, that experience, getting that call from him, and then playing for him again? We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did my 5 years there with him, and he was incredible to me. Taught us so many lessons outside of lacrosse. He was just an unbelievable guy, unbelievable coach. But then before I even got to play for him this summer, I got a call from Stephen Brooks, who was the assistant coach in the Atlas to play in the sixes. So I think that was like where to start, I guess. Like, getting that call, I was pretty much like thinking I was not going to play lacrosse, like at the next level. And then he just shot me an email one day. I was like, yeah, like I'm definitely interested in doing the sixes stuff. And then did that. And then everything just kind of started to go from there because I knew the Atlas coach had just resigned. And I had kind of just had a feeling that Pressler might get it. There was just some rumblings I heard, and then he ended up getting it and gave me a call, asked me if I wanted to join for the summer, and it was a without hesitation yes.
Yep.
So it was cool to see him also in a different setting, whereas like college was just like a different environment, whereas the guys were so young and you kind of had guys that still had to learn the systems and like get acclimated, where when he got transitioned into the pros, everyone was already had the skill set and knew what was going on. So it was cool to see him in that environment. And he was a little looser. Not that he wasn't like loose at Bryant or anything, but it was cool to see him in that environment. To play from him at a different level, a different colored jersey was definitely weird, but it was a good experience.
Yeah, half your job as a college head coach has to be babysitting, making sure people aren't getting in trouble. It's a lot different when half the team has children, so that must be children and full-time jobs that they need to keep. Yeah, mortgages, all the above. Yeah, completely different. Just want to get your insight on Bryant. They play Quinnipiac, who's undefeated at the moment, just upset Brown. But it seems like, regardless of the head coach for the Bulldogs, they keep that same toughness mentality. Obviously, last year winning the American East. So it'd be great if you could talk a little bit about the season preview for Bryant, as well as heading into this. I believe it's their last Rhode Island game against Quinnipiac. Would love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, I've talked to a lot of the guys on the team last year, just with the transition with Coach Ross coming in, and they sing his praises. They've really enjoyed playing for him. And I think a lot of the older guys who were seniors, I want to say even maybe the juniors were also there when Pressler was around, but I think at least the fifth years and the seniors kind of kept that mentality that Pressler instilled in us, like from day one, and like brought it on to the younger guys. So I think they're going to have a great season. They have a lot of really talented players. Things look a little bit different than we were there. I don't know if you guys noticed the no black cleats or anything, but
they look a little fresher. They look
they do. They do look a little cleaner.
Maybe a little bit faster too. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm sure that helps with the mental state for the boys to feel a little bit looser, like you're not running around with lead in your cleats. Totally. But yeah, they've got a lot of really young talent and a lot of veterans to lead that group. You saw the Providence win, which was great for Ocean State Cup purposes. And then BU is a great win. Then obviously devastating loss to Harvard tonight was not ideal. We were right there with them, but I think that was a good point for Bryant to, look themselves in the mirror and say, like we can hang with these Ivy Leagues and these bigger schools. So I think going into Saturday, I think they'll be pretty fired up to get a win. It's also their first home game, so I'm sure they'll come out flying.
Absolutely. Yeah. Last question for you before you go. Just want to talk about the fifth year thing. I think the COVID year is coming to an end after the season, but you have to expect with what's happened, not only lacrosse, but football as well, that players are going to continue to transfer to some of these top tier schools. You were one of the guys who did not choose to transfer. You stayed at Bryant for your fifth year to compete for an NEC championship. You had a great season, obviously, an unbelievable career. Would be great to kind of understand that decision that you made, because a player like you certainly could have been a very impactful player at Maryland, UNC, you name it. So would love to kind of understand the decision you made and how it worked out.
Yeah. So, I mean, my senior year was shorter than most, so I only got to play like 6 games my true senior year. So I felt like I didn't really get the I guess if you look back on, I played like 4 years worth of games.
And that was COVID related, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
All been resolved, so no worries there now.
Good.
But I mean, just it was after winning the NEC, our true senior year was like such a great moment for the program and for our class and everything, that it was honestly never really a thought to jump in the portal. Like you would want to wonder like, oh, what would have happened? But Pressler also always preached loyalty to us. And that was something from day one, even when he recruited me when I was a sophomore. And it just felt like the right thing to do. You know, he was there early in the recruiting process and felt the need to stay loyal to him. You know, I made a lot of great friendships and a lot of great friends with Bryant. It felt like the right thing, and I don't regret the decision.
Absolutely. Yeah, the program.
Except for when you decided to end our season in an embarrassing fashion.
I was waiting for that to come at some point.
Well, yeah. You got an NEC ring for me to look at every time I see you. So it's Knowles in comparison, but we really appreciate having you on, man. Seriously, you're a unbelievable player, good friend of mine from competing over the years. Really appreciate it, Marc.
Yeah, absolutely. Glad I could be here.
Thanks, Marc. Appreciate it.
Thanks to Marc O'Rourke for joining the show. Hayden, you have some analysis on this Rhode Island matchup as well.
Yeah, Quinnipiac is traveling to Bryant. Bryant just coming off a tough, heartbreaking loss to Harvard this evening, a game that they could have won. But I was really impressed with Bryant, their middies, and Johnny Hackett, number 22, and Aiden Goltz, the grad student, number 34, are just two really electric middies who kind of score when they want and cause matchup nightmares for whoever they're playing against. With that said, Quinnipiac is quietly 2-0 with wins against St. John's and Browns. This will be their first test at Bryant. So we'll see what happens here. I think Bryant is going to come back with a vengeance after this Harvard game and beat Quinnipiac at home.
And moving on to Sunday, the 25th, now Lemoyne, a 1-0 Lemoyne, after a big win against Wagner in their first Division I game. As a program goes to Sacred Heart, they play at 12 noon Sunday, and then a big game Sunday, Georgetown goes to Notre Dame. They play at 2 p.m.
Can Georgetown use the momentum from their impressive 12-9 win at Penn to upset the national champs?
It's a confidence win. That win is.
I highly doubt it. But who's to say it's not going to be a game? And maybe Georgetown shuts me up. But Notre Dame is 2-0. They are coming off a dominant win over a very solid Marquette team, 21-8. They have scored over 20 goals in both of their games, led by the Kavanaugh brothers. The Hoyas are led by graduate attackman Graham Bundy, who was the Big East Offensive Player of the Week this past weekend. But I'm taking Notre Dame here.
I think Notre Dame wins by 12.
Yeah.
You want to tell our audience?
Yes, I think Notre Dame wins by 12 if you didn't hear that.
Spread.
It's bold. That's the last game of the weekend, and then we have a ton of good games during the week as these contests start to pick up as the year goes on. A game I really like, we're not going to spend too much time on it, Lehigh at Dartmouth. I just think it's as even as these teams have ever been. I really like this game. And that's Monday the 26th. Tuesday, some more good lacrosse. Wagner goes to Monmouth, Bellarmine at Hampton, Hobart at Cornell, the oldest rivalry in Division I lacrosse history. Look it up. Towson at Loyola, Merrimack at Harvard. Michigan goes to Jacksonville for a little vacation. And then Wednesday, the 28th, Lemoyne at Siena, St. John's at Queens. And there's another great game on Wednesday that's included in our games of the week. But first, our D3 rundown with Hayden Fry.
Looking back at the D3 slate for this past weekend, a couple big games. No big upsets, but some convincing wins by some top teams, some losses by some ranked teams. A couple notable games from this past weekend. RIT beating Denison 22-8 at Denison. RIT looks like the two-time national champion that they are. Nazareth 10, Springfield 9. Gettysburg beat Lynchburg 15-10 in a top-ranked South game. And York beat Washington and Lee 16-15. York bounces back after a tough loss to RPI. Lots of other games this past weekend, but those were the most notable wins on my radar. This upcoming weekend is really week one of Division III lacrosse. A lot of play starting for Liberty League teams, a couple NESCAC teams getting their first games under their belts. My big four games this weekend are Bates at Skidmore. We can see if Bates is going to make a statement early, right? They've had a couple tough seasons the last few years, but they have some changes at their coaching staff. I've heard a lot of positive reports coming out of Lewiston. I think Bate could go up to Skidmore and make a statement as being a contender in the NESCAC. Next game up is Cabrini at Lynchburg. Lynchburg coming off that loss to Gettysburg. This is Cabrini's last year as a program. So, we'll see if they're all in and if they can get a win against Lynchburg. Next big game, huge game, is Gettysburg at Salisbury. Salisbury is number 1 in the country. Gettysburg just beating Lynchburg should, propel to a top 5 team in Division III. This is certainly the game of the month. Going to see if Salisbury is a team from last year and if they can beat this red-hot Gettysburg team. Last game of the week for Division III is Babson at Union. This game was scheduled for Saturday. It just got moved to Sunday per inside sources. Babson's a top 20 team. Union's preseason ranked 12. I think Babson is really a top 15 team. They brought in a lot of transfers. And Union returns a lot of guys from last year, including their goalie and face-off guy, as well as a lot of really strong offensive players. We'll see if they can, win a tough game against Babson at home early on in the season. It would, really set their season up for success and get them going on the right track. So those are my 4 games to watch this weekend. A couple more good games, but those are the 4 that I'm looking most forward to.
Now we're just fired up to present to you our games of the week, starting with Princeton. Number 11 goes to Maryland. Number 4. This one's Saturday. It's on BTN Plus. I'm juiced.
We have it.
We have BTN Plus.
We have BTN Plus.
Yep. $40 in the hole, but shit, we got it.
We got it.
We got Princeton at Maryland.
Talk about in the hole.
Dude, this is like, do you think of it this way? This to me just seems like it's like an Ivy League prove it game. At least they can. This is like the first big Ivy League out of conference matchup.
Big
Big Ten, probably the best Big Ten team.
Yeah.
Against a good Ivy League team. It's definitely a prove it win for Princeton. It's a prove it win for the Ivy League.
Yeah, I agree. I think Princeton is the second best Ivy League team. They might be the first, even.
Could be.
Cornell was
Too early to
unanimous,
tell.
but Princeton, the story on Princeton is that they're young, but they have tons of talent. They have Coulter Mackesy, who's an upperclassman, really good attacker from that lefty wing. Just kind of, always takes the top matchup, always creates, always opens up other guys. And a couple of those other guys are Colin Burns and Nate Kabiri, 2 freshman attackmen who are playing with Coulter Mackesy. Colin Burns is more of an inside guy. He does operate at X a little bit, but he is a beneficiary of Coulter Mackesy, and kind of having that crease presence. And then Nate Kabiri was a number 3 recruit in this class, right? So like, he's legit, and he's
They get good recruits in the Ivy League.
Yeah, especially at Princeton too. I noted that last week that Princeton is consistently a top 5 class recruiting, and some of those guys are stepping into roles now, whether they're freshmen or sophomores or whatever. But they're legit and they're loaded. Young, inexperienced, but tons of talent.
You ever been in Princeton, New Jersey, Hayden?
I have been one time. I
beautiful.
walked on the field.
It's a beautiful area.
I walked on the field. It was a beautiful facility.
Princeton,
Definitely.
New Jersey. So we got Ajax Zapatello covering Coulter Mackesy.
Matchup
Most likely.
to watch.
Okay.
100%.
Okay.
Definitely.
This reminds me a lot of the game, the COVID year where the season got canceled, where Princeton goes to Virginia. Do you remember that game?
Yes.
Princeton goes to Virginia. They play at Klockner. They win 16-12.
Mm-hmm.
Great game. And Princeton was kind of on this, okay, they're getting better and better and better, but they were coming off the lull they had for a few years. And then they win a few big games to start off this year. And then they beat Virginia 16-12. And it's kind of like they've arrived. And I think they're in a similar position now where it's, have you arrived? Are you a top tier team, Princeton? Go beat Maryland at their place. They can do it.
Go beat Maryland.
Yeah.
And I think to dig deeper into this matchup here, Ajax Zapatello, who just absolutely locked down Joey Spallina, is going to be on Coulter Mackesy, which Hayden, you spoke about. He's a great attackman. He just seems to always get points.
Yeah.
He seems to always find a way to get points. But it's going to be going. Mackesy had 3 goals against Maryland their last go, and he was covered by Brett Maker at the time. So we'll see how he fares against the new number 1.
Yeah, and this is for Zapatillo. This is a completely different matchup. Spleen is a physical righty dodger. Mackessy's a quick, shifty lefty. Right, a different matchup. So we'll see Zapatillo's versatility. See if he can hold his own against.
I think he will.
Mackessy.
I think he'll do
I
just fine.
agree with you.
I'm not sure who's on the call for this one, but I kind of wish we had the Princeton play-by-play commentator. If you heard him, he talks like this. He's very slow, and Ajax Zapatello on Coulter Mackessy. That'd be fun to listen to. Great name matchup right there with Zapatello and Mackessy. Zapatello. Next game in our game of the week slate. Number 9 Hopkins goes to UNC Saturday, 12 noon. ACC Network Extra pretty much just means ESPN Plus for those of you that have it. We have Hopkins going into Petramala's new home. Very interesting.
Yes.
This is going to be a good game. I'm fired up. Juiced.
Yeah, great game.
Another prove-it game.
Another
for UNC.
For both teams.
For both teams.
For both teams.
UNC.
But more so UNC.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think Hopkins is 3-1. I think we've watched every game because they're on every single weekend, prime time. UNC, I haven't seen any of this year. They played Mercer and Fairfield, and both kind of unassuming wins. They didn't kill either team. They're led by Logan McGovern, who's a grad attackman who has 12 points on the year, and then two more freshmen: Don Petramala, son of Dave Petramala, and Owen Duffy, who was the number 2 recruit in the latest class. So 2 young guys kind of trying to bring back UNC lacrosse, and 2 guys who have been UNC guys since the day they committed. I think there is a growing culture at UNC. I think it's tough, bringing in an entirely new coaching staff with Petramala and Thompson on offense. But Bresci is a culture builder, and we'll see what UNC.
He knows how to win a championship for sure.
He does.
Absolutely.
And when you hear the name Petramala, you think defense. You're not used to seeing 6 goals and 4 assists from Petramala. You're used to seeing locking down CTs and GBs.
Yeah.
But I think this is going to be a great physical matchup. I think Hopkins comes out on top here, but I think it could be a very, very exciting game for sure.
I agree. I think Hopkins is battle tested. I think UNC is going to have to come up with a special game plan, some lucky bounces to beat this pretty well-oiled machine of Hopkins.
I'd pay a pretty penny to listen to Petramala's speech before they play host to Hopkins. Our third game of the week. Number 8 Cornell goes to Denver. They play Saturday, 2 p.m. This one is on a Denver streaming service. We think it should be free. This is going to be a great game, and it's going to be Cornell's first test, and everyone, not just us, everyone is very high on the Big Red. And we're going to find out what they're made of 2 p.m. Saturday.
Yeah, this is interesting because it's a number 8 versus a number 5. And, when I'm looking at it, I think both teams are a little bit unproven. Cornell, obviously, they have who they have in CJ Kirst and Michael Long, and they brought in some freshmen and Willem Firth, who, had 4 goals the other day. But they beat Lehigh by 4. And it was their first game, and, it was cold.
It also
and it
was snowing, yes.
Yeah, it was
very cold.
Shitty conditions, but, beating Lehigh by 4 is a little bit unimpressive. And then Denver, right, they haven't, they beat Hopkins week 1, but then they beat Air Force by 2, and then they beat Utah by 8, let them hang around. So, they're number 5 for a reason because they beat a top-ranked Hopkins team. And Cornell is who they are from last year. But, whoever wins this game is going to prove that they belong there.
Right. Like you said, this is weird. Like, it feels like it's 8 versus 5. It also feels like it could be like 12 versus 10 or like 15 versus 13. It just feels that way. But regardless, it's a tight matchup regardless of where they are ranked in the standings. And like you said, whoever wins this game is going to be the one who's going to be in the top 10 and could be for the remainder of the season, and the other one will fall and will probably be maybe not Cornell. I feel like if Denver loses this game, they're going to fall pretty deep into the rankings, depending on what they do throughout.
And I think if you asked anyone on either team, what's your team ranked and what are they ranked, they'd be like, I don't know. They'd have no idea. It doesn't matter. They don't care.
Yeah.
I truly believe that. I think they don't care. They understand how big this game is, and nothing matters until Saturday at 2:00. So
another thing on that game is that this is the first game at Denver's new stadium, which I'm sure everybody's seen pictures of. It looks sick.
The mountains.
The turf looks amazing.
Is that the Rockies on it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's got the mountains on it.
They also new fields are sick. Like Hopkins' new field is awesome.
Yeah.
Harvard's new field we're watching.
Ohio State, like all the new fields,
I think
look great.
Yeah.
The more new stadiums we can get.
Yes.
Forget about just the turf. Hobart got new turf.
Yep.
Denver got new turf, really cool turf. Denver got really cool new turf, but like the new stadiums, like Ohio State,
right?
The facilities.
Like, Penn State Panzer Field, that was like a year ago, 2 years ago.
Yep.
Those are so cool. Lacrosse only facilities. Ooh, we need more of those.
As a huge lacrosse fan, it gives you goosebumps because you're like,
it really does.
They're doing it.
Lampert's also back in the lineup for
Good
Denver.
news.
He had 5
Good news
points
for
against
Denver.
Utah. He, if you remember, got injured against Hopkins and was out in the game against Air Force, which they only won by 2.
Yeah.
So he had 5 points, and he is a water bug for that Denver offense. So
Good. Shout out Mikey.
I might like Denver in that game.
Shout out Mikey Lampert.
That was a Drew Bledsoe type hit that he took.
Yeah.
Glad he's back. Another game of the week. Could be some controversy in this selection, but an undefeated Ohio State, they're ranked 18th. They go to Klockner. They play Virginia Sunday at 1 p.m. This one's on ACC Network Extra or ESPN Plus. Interesting game. Ohio State hasn't proven much. I don't think they're 4-0, but
I would say they've proven nothing.
No.
I mean, I don't know. Ohio State's a good team. They're 4-0.
I'm so curious what the spread is. I'm so curious how much UVA is favorited in this, because if it's tight, I'm taking UVA all the way.
Yes.
I'm taking if this is like a 3 to 5 goal spread, I'm taking UVA all the way. Ohio State has a good defense. They do. They haven't really played anyone spectacular. They beat Utah 11-8. They beat Air Force 12-4. They've shown they can stop the ball. They haven't let more than 10 goals all season. But I think the test with UVA is, can you outscore UVA? They're going to score goals.
Yeah.
Can you make enough stops and put enough Genos in the net to outscore UVA? Because they're going to score. And I don't think Ohio State can do it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just think their schedule, their first 4 games of the year, says a lot about what their aspirations are this year. And, obviously I can sit back here and talk about how I don't think Ohio State is motivated to win any games this year. But
is that what you're saying?
that's not what I'm saying.
Yeah,
but
I think that's
they play
exactly what you
Utah,
said.
Cleveland State, Bellarmine, and Air Force. Right? Give me a more cupcake schedule if you're the Ohio State Buckeyes. Go play someone legit out of conference early on and test yourselves, right? And, all these games have been close. 11-8, 13-6,
Utah's a test.
10-6, 12-4. It's just, it tells me something about Ohio State. And, I think they are in a rebuilding year. I just cannot see them going into UVA and beating UVA, nonetheless making it a close game.
Matchup to watch, though, real quick here. Bobby Van Buren on Connor Schellenberger. Schellenberger had 2 assists in his last outing against Van Buren. I think Van Buren will do great, but as we have already seen this year, the pick game is how UVA scores. Connor Schellenberger is excellent off picks. Can Van Buren maneuver through those picks, and can Ohio State defense defend that correctly?
We'll keep an eye on it. There's going to be a great broadcast likely on Sunday. Fired up for that one. Last game of the week. This one's on Wednesday, but I'd love to fast forward to this one. Number 7 Army goes into the Dome, and yet again, Syracuse plays a home game. This one's on Wednesday at 6 p.m. ACC Network Extra / ESPN Plus. I know who I'm rooting for, but I'll keep that to myself. I'm juiced for this game.
I'm rooting for America. I love this country. I love freedom.
You're going to make me cry.
As do I.
I mean, this is such a similar opponent to Maryland for Cuse, as far as the style and the way that they play fundamentally and physically and defensively. So I think it's going to be, and Army has been done very well against Cuse the past 5 years.
Yeah, it's a great point.
So, without saying too much, give me Army over Cuse.
I like Army too. And you guys might disagree, but my favorite place to watch a lacrosse game is at the JMA Dome. In terms of the broadcast, in terms of watching it from my couch. I think
From your couch.
they do a top-notch job. Like, the announcers are great. It's always a huge crowd. They had the light show against Maryland, which was
Yeah, I haven't
actually
seen that
pretty
before.
Yeah, that was
That looked
badass.
new.
I actually like
That was
that.
badass.
That looked
was
new.
cool.
I will say, especially this year too, they're going to draw some bigger crowds than they have the past 5.
Yeah,
some
absolutely.
years. There's some excitement in the Dome for sure, especially the way they performed against Maryland, even though they lost. Very exciting finish against a really good team. They have high expectations for their team.
Yeah. And you know, we always talk about Syracuse offense and all the guys they have there, but one guy I want to point out is Mason Kahn, who's the face-off guy for Syracuse. He's a grad transfer from Tufts. He's been unbelievable this year for Syracuse. He's kind of exactly what they've been missing the past few years in terms of a dominant face-off guy. And, you know, he's a D3 guy, but you look at him and he is bigger than anybody he's played against, including the Maryland face-off guy last week and what's his name?
Weirman.
Weirman. Right?
Yeah.
Like he beat Weirman, who's a top face-off guy in the country.
Did he really beat Weirman?
And he,
I mean, if he didn't beat him, it was like 50-50.
Yeah, he kept it. Yeah,
Which you don't see a lot against Weirman.
Yeah,
I don't know. He's been unbelievable. So I think that could tilt the pendulum a little bit in this game. But I love Army. I love the way they play. I love the guys they have. I love what they play for and who they play for.
yeah,
So,
I mean him too. He's a captain,
yeah, he is.
which is huge.
Says a lot.
as a transfer. Yeah, I take back the rooting for Army thing. I want Syracuse to excel. Obviously, it's great for the sport. It's going to be a great game. This one's on Wednesday. It's too bad we have to wait. But we're juiced for another week of lacrosse. And thank you guys for joining us in this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next time. Thank you guys for listening. A reminder for Feed the Family Picks, follow us on Twitter or on Instagram or both. Obviously, we're trying to make this thing a little bit shorter. We appreciate your support. Thanks for listening. Fired up for the games this weekend. Let's play lacrosse.
Will Lynch.
Holden, getting underneath. Maltz, great catch by Bernhardt. Score! Hello, highlight reel.
Play like a champion today.